how I would describe Regina.
I'm the publisher of Soul, and I don't
publisher. She's a Black American woman doing things that other women aren't doing in this time.
You were the Black couple moving up the ladder of success. They were the first African American music and arts magazine on the scene, and the one who ran the ship was Regina Jones.
Is it like First Love all over?
Welcome to Advanced TV Herstory. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams. This is the place where we connect the dots of TV and feminism to American culture and politics. Today, we've got a tremendous guest from Chicago. And, we've got this theme going, what we think of as vintage and historic TV, resurrecting those great reruns and the series that we haven't had a chance to see in a few years because Weigel Broadcasting has created a gazillion channels that are found on streaming and cable. Alyssa Shapiro is here today, and she's a Weigel Broadcasting longtime guru, developer, executive producer, fingers in lots of different projects. And it came to my attention that she's got one project that is going to be appearing on, is it on MeTV?
It is on Start, Dabble, and Story.
Start, Dabble, and Story. There you go. You're hearing from Alyssa before I even get a chance to say howdy do and welcome. Alyssa Shapiro, who's going to talk to us today about a documentary that she has worked on called Who in the Hell is Regina Jones? Welcome, Alyssa, to Advanced TV Herstory.
Thanks so much, Cynthia. I'm really happy to be talking about this project and happy to be talking to you.
You are an experienced documentary producer, even in short form, where you've worked with Katie Couric and Jon Stewart and Tina Brown and Ted Koppel. Big names in both TV and media and thought leadership. And now you've sort of embraced this project. And I guess I'm just a little curious as to what got you to Regina Jones.
We've been working on documentary at Weigel Productions Corp. Through Weigel Broadcasting for the last 8 years or so. Back in 2020, we were looking to stories of protest and the history of protest, thinking what we could bring to share with our audience that would help make some of what was going on then make sense. And one of the periods of time that we focused on was 1965. And it was through that research that we met the amazing, incomparable, wonderful Regina. And we fell in love with her right away, as everyone does. And we knew it was her story that we had to focus on and tell.
Okay, so your elevator speech of her story, which is nothing short of awesome.
Regina Jones was the co-founder of Soul newspaper, but her journey through this remarkable publication, which predated Cream and Rolling Stone in the music world and really focused on highlighting Black artists at a time they were not being highlighted, is almost more interesting than the work that came out of Soul newspaper. She is a wonder of motherhood, of marriage, of entrepreneurism, of resilience. Everyone who comes into contact with her takes away something they will carry with them forever. And that is the magnetism of her story and what we wanted to share with as many of your viewers, of our viewers, of all our television documentary audience as possible.
It's an excellent film. Tell us a little bit more about when it's going to premiere and how often we'll be able to see it.
We're really excited to be able to bring Who in the Hell is Regina Jones to broadcast television, which is also available on cable and streaming, but primarily an over-the-air broadcasting opportunity for anyone. So this is content that will be accessible to anyone with an antenna. Making this type of premiere documentary programming available is just something that we aren't seeing enough of, and so excited that Regina's story will be able to be brought to viewers in this way. We premiere on broadcast on February 16th at 8 p.m. Eastern on Story, Dabble, and Start Television.
You've been at Weigel Broadcasting for how long now?
Over 10 years.
As you were sitting at Weigel and you heard about this story, how does somebody who otherwise is not in the documentary business but has a lot of the skills, how do you begin putting together that project and not having your bosses say, hey, get back to your day job?
If you have the answer to that, let me know. But Regina's story was so powerful, and we started a little bit of documentary work before then. We had a feature called It's Quieter in the Twilight that went to South by Southwest and was acquired. And we knew we had the talent and the ability to pull together this amazing story, and that we could do what it needed to do to tell the best story possible. And we knew that the story deserved that attention, and we thought we should try. And here we are, and we're so glad we did.
We are so happy that you've done that and that we are kind of helping push and promote people to start paying attention when you see an article or you see something about it. Take the time to get Who in the Hell is Regina Jones on your watch list. It is remarkable.
February 16th. Yeah, put it on that calendar.
We have spoken with other documentarians, the Julia Child documentary by Julie Cohen and the Sherry Lewis documentary with Lisa D'Appolito. Amazing talent. And, you all, your sisterhood, my gosh, you should all be on a Zoom call together. I think that would be very cool. But the sisterhood of storytellers that is sort of carrying the torch of the biographical memoirization that previously had been filled by, believe it or not, corny as it sounds, Lifetime for Women intimate portraits. And I always say that Lee Grant is still alive. She's like 100 and some because she never quite was accurate about telling her age. But she was a force behind the intimate portraits on Lifetime. And that's how we all learned about women. Women have not been biographed either in written or in film the way that men have, and certainly not women of color. So my hat is off to you, and let's dig in a little bit to the whole film of who the hell is Regina Jones. So help listeners understand her significance in Black American history, women's history, and music history, because she is sort of at the nexus.
Regina's at the nexus of so many things, absolutely. As I said before, anyone who sees this film or meets Regina, anyone who has, they all fall in love with her. And it's because she really speaks to everyone in so many intimate ways because of who she is. She speaks as a mother. She speaks as a Black woman. She speaks as a entrepreneur and a business leader. She speaks as someone who understands what it means to, as she says, put on the armor and work in the world. And I think a lot of women understand that innately. She's done it all in a lot of different times over a lot of different periods in U.S. history, starting when she looked at her community, which was Watts, Los Angeles, after the Watts Rebellion of 1965. And with her husband, Ken Jones, wanted to bring beauty to that community that had been kind of devastated at that time. And that's how Soul newspaper was born. And she says Ken was a dreamer and she was the one who was able to get it done. And she brought that ferocity to everything that she did and that never take no for an answer attitude. And, it's a message that resonates today. Everyone is told no. Everyone needs to understand the strength that Regina has. And if we can't harness it, we'll all be better for it. And she's built a community that is tremendous. And I've been privileged to get to know a little bit of it and feel very grateful to be part of a tiny bit of that.
It's amazing today, here we are in 2025, that there are still people who don't understand the concept of intersectional feminism and know that's not just a woke buzz term. It's two words, and it really describes the sort of situation that the story of Regina Jones exemplifies. It tells that story, and that is the intersection of the misogyny that she experienced as a woman and the racism that she experienced as a Black woman. And there aren't that many women, Black women of that generation, who will tell that story, relieving themselves of at least a little bit, showing a little bit of vulnerability. And she does that in the film in a way that connects with you. You start to see her as a person first as she's telling these remarkable stories of how she literally changed lives, started careers, and produced art. And that art, Soul magazine, was just amazing. It's one of those things that it could only have happened at this time in American media because it was print and because it was before the internet and all those different things. And it was focused for the most part on Black artists. So talk a little bit about those amazing covers that are seen, the covers of Soul magazine that are seen throughout the film, how you captured them, how you picked the ones, and what they mean, like Mick Jagger, for Pete's sake.
Well, first of all, I love speaking to you. I am speaking to you as a producer of this film, and I am a part of a larger team. Sarai Salen and Billy Miasi were the directors of this film, and they were the ones with Nancy Novak, who's the editor, who really were in that edit room making those hard decisions and looking at this breadth of archive that was really incredible to try and tell Regina's story to the best of our collective ability. And they just did a tremendous job bringing it to life. So as much as I would love to tell you those stories, it's certainly not necessarily mine to tell, but we're happy to bring those to the audience and in the film. Some of them that come to mind, of course, are Aretha Franklin, who Regina had a wonderful personal relationship with over time, the Jacksons, Donna Summers, stories that you hear in the film that speak to the strength of the newspaper, Regina's strength as the publisher, and really give depth to the success that they achieved.
On a technical basis, then, the recordings, there are some recordings that they play through. Was that she recorded a lot of her conversations because she was a journalist and she wanted to secure details? Was there any context that you have about how you ended up with audio?
Regina has an amazing archive, and credit to her grandson Matt Jones to have preserved and helped her preserve a lot of this amazing archive. We're grateful to work with him on all of this. They had an amazing number of recordings, and many of them, I believe, are at UCLA in their libraries. I believe they were donated. And you hear from Aretha, you hear from Mick Jagger, and there are others where she, as a journalist, was recording her conversations so that they could be written later into articles.
And they didn't disintegrate on tape the way that so much good television and audio has.
Preservation of these materials, and I think a lot of it was in boxes in under desks in the garage and closets and all those things, is tremendous. It was in terrific shape.
When I think about how I would tell somebody, now that I've seen the film, how would I encourage them to watch it? And I have to say, watch it with a multiple generation, young people, as well as perhaps the elders in your family. If you're able to get folks together and just sit and watch an hour and a half of really, really good TV, call it storytelling, whatever, because she talks about her marriage. She talked about having children starting at the age of 15. There's this deeper message, and she kind of gets philosophical and existential, and she talks about pain. Did any of that surprise you as you started hearing from your team that there's going to be this deeper side?
One of the reasons you fall for Regina, we did at the very beginning, was because there's a level of trust, and grateful for her trust that she's honest and revealing, and she wants you to know the truth. And that's why I think she wanted to do this film, was because she wants to share that message of resilience and has a lot to offer on those fronts, from being pregnant and married, being pregnant at 15, married at 16, having 5 children before the age of 21, and knowing what it took to raise kids, knowing what it took to grow the business, knowing what it took to be a woman of color at that time. I think her hope is that this story will inspire others and at least help them feel connected and less alone in their own struggles.
I felt that connection, that's for sure. She really comes across, her authenticity is amazing. And you talked a little bit about the focus on the history of protest and Watts. So was it from your research around the Watts rebellion that you found her, or were you exploring her and soul music and then found that she had been in the police department, in the dispatch room?
Yeah, no, we had been exploring Watts. Found a letter that she wrote on the anniversary of Watts, right before Rodney King had happened in LA, about her experience in the LAPD at that time. She was a dispatcher. She took the first call of police distress. And at the time, she was living in Watts as well. So she had this story of this real historical moment in the country from these multiple perspectives. So it was through that research that we found her, and then the rest of the story emerged, and we just couldn't believe it.
That's fantastic. Again, listeners, 1965, there was no internet. There were 3 major broadcast networks, and that was how national news was telecast. And the breaking news that came out of LA, I'm guessing, still took a matter of hours in order for all the pieces to come into place, for them to even have been a field crew out there to be taking video. And who was part of that field crew? I believe her husband, right?
Yeah, so she told Ken, her husband at the time, to go out and report because he was an aspiring journalist. And that changed the trajectory of both their lives, his reporting from that experience. Absolutely. And certainly there was a lot of time that went into it. Things were on film. They had to be cut. It was before video. It was certainly a different moment. And the coverage of that certainly speaks to a different moment as well.
It's all contextual. And what we need to remember is the fact that white people dominated the news industry for years and years. And actually, it was only really with the breakthrough of Watergate and the Watergate scandal that television news brought in women and persons of color. And that was partly due to the EEOC and affirmative action laws. Did a podcast episode about that back with the women who reported Watergate, and that's a cool story. But anyway, the history of television news is one that we need to reckon with because for the most part, white men told the stories and reported the stories and picked the stories.
I think when you're talking about television news, and Ken Jones he was the first person of color to be a co-anchor.
And you have to expect that out of LA because it was a massive market. And because Regina at that moment said, get out there and get the story, that just sends chills up my spine. I'll say that because it does. It's very cool. And that's the moment in life. That's why you live in the moment, it seems to me. Shifting over a sec to creating the film, and you've explained that you had two directors, you had an editor, and you were the producer. Explain for the folks back home, because to some degree, every documentary is different, sort of based on the org structure. What did that mean for your role versus your colleagues?
My role is to keep the project on track, to provide the resources, to continue to think through strategy and story, to help keep everyone going, depending on what they need at the time. But it's really up to that film team, which I was a part, to look at the editorial value of any story, in particular this one, and to have that autonomy and creativity to tell the story the best way that they had. And, they're a tremendous group, really deep experience, deeply caring, really developed these beautiful relationships with Regina and with each other. And it was a wonderful experience.
You brought it to closure in 2024, and it has had screenings and film festival appearances. How does that work for something like your film? And then knowing that in February of 2026, it's going to go to TV and be available. Are there more film festivals that you can take it to?
We were so thrilled and lucky to have such a great film festival run, starting in June 2024 with the American Black Film Festival, going through actually today. It's our last film festival screening at ATVH in New York. We've been honored to be at the National Gallery of Art, Doc Soup for Hot Docs, at the Athena Film Festival, at New Orleans, at Michaud, at the Martha's Vineyard African American Film Festival. We've just had a terrific run. It's been great to see it on the big screen with these wonderful audiences, but we're really excited to be able to bring it to broadcast and make it accessible to everyone.
So in terms of your career, 10 years at Weigel, and you clearly had a career in television that kind of brought you to Weigel. Where does this fit into your personal career highlights?
Oh, this is it. To be able to bring a story like Regina's that, maybe history had overlooked. I'm just so honored by her trust and the ability to help bring a little bit of light to her story, because I think everyone should see it. Her community, her kindness, her passion, her fortitude is a lesson we can all benefit from.
When the film goes to film festivals, do either the directors or the editor, does somebody accompany it and sort of help with an introduction to it?
As much as we can. And we have a great team. Everyone's wanted to attend as much as possible, and we've been really lucky with a lot of screenings. So as much as we can, we've tried to be at almost all of them.
Sounds like a lot of fun. The last question that I'll ask has to do with the statement that I made a little bit ago, and that is that I would recommend multiple generations use watching the film as an opportunity to learn things about the past, talk a little bit about the future, explain things up and down the age cycle. Who do you think should view this film? How would you advise people to watch it?
So many people get so many different things out of it. I think the multi-generational viewing is wonderful. I think one of the things I'm really looking forward to and have really enjoyed seeing the reaction to is really younger women in particular, because I think there's a lot of conversation about how you make things work as a woman in media, or a woman in business, and with the things that come as attached to the things that come later in life. Maybe it's partnership and marriage or parenthood. Seeing that parse through these younger women in particular is such a wonderful thing, because Regina holds nothing back. Understanding what that takes and how much strength and what costs there are to all of that is something anyone could benefit from as they're looking forward in their lives. All of us reflect on as we look back, or even reflect on our current moments.
And how old is she?
Regina turned 83.
83. So listeners, 83 and sharp as a tack. Either she just really kept good records and had reviewed a lot of stuff before she got interviewed, or she really does have this all captured, because you just felt like she was giving it to you straight with none of that sort of haziness of age, I will say. And this is an opportunity to learn about a different person's life, but hear about their life from them and not having somebody else sort of retell it. It is just nothing short of firsthand elegance from Regina Jones. And that's why you should put it on your calendar for February 16th. Weigel Broadcasting is bringing us Who the Hell is Regina Jones? We are here with Alyssa Shapiro. And Alyssa, what are you going to do next?
Well, I think Weigel Productions, we always got something going on. We also produce a lot for our networks, MeTV and Catchy and Otherwise. And we produce Tune In With Me, which you can catch every weekday morning. We produce Collector's Call, which you can catch every Sunday evening. We've got a lot of wonderful nostalgia-based content coming your way on a lot of different platforms.
You guys keep the flame burning 24/7, and we are so grateful for that. You have been listening to Alyssa Shapiro, who is an executive producer at Weigel Broadcasting. We've been talking about the film, Who in the Hell is Regina Jones? There is a website that even as you're sort of plotting out your February viewing, you can go to and learn a little bit more about the film, and it is at whoisreginafilm.com. Any final thoughts?
Tune in February 16th. We're excited to share this with all of you.
Thank you so much for being with us and sharing a little bit of backstory of the film. We wish you the very best for a great rollout and continued great response to the film. Listeners, I'm just going to say, put it on your list. And that's why we podcast, because we want to bring a story like Regina's to you and through the tremendous generosity of Weigel Broadcasting. And this is not a paid ad for Weigel Broadcasting, mind you. It just is me being a bit of a fan person, a fan lady here in 2025. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Audio and video production today come to us from Mary Lou Morose, our audio editor, and Nivea Lopez. The jingle music is Jazzer's Take Me Higher, found at freemusicarchive.org. And go to our website to sign up for the newsletter. It comes out monthly. I promise we won't sell or share your information. It's basically just for us to cut through the clutter of social media to bring our message and our schedule and our details, our backstory directly to you. Thank you very much for listening. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams.